Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. We are back in the new studio. So 2025 is the kickstart of the new space, and we're going to be recording tons of videos in here. We're going to kickstart it with the Arpeggios series, as you can see by the title and thumbnail of this video. And if you want to see behind the scenes and just a little bit more about this, I'm going to be posting a video over on Patreon soon, just giving a bit of a guided tour, and then we're going to sort of expand out of that video for any questions that people have over on Patreon. You can get the MIDI as well over on Patreon if you don't want to just copy it off screen. Okay, so here we are. So I made this little pattern whilst I was building some presets for the Patreon packs. This is actually going back to December, a little bit late for Patreon, so I do apologise. But if we jump in, we're working in the A scale and we're working in Locrian. So if you want to understand more about scales, head to scales-chords.com and things like that, and you can learn your scales. This just gives you a different tonality to your scale using different modes. So you can use Aeolian, natural minor. That's very, very common in trance. I use that a lot. Then you've got Lydian, you've got Mixolydian, Locrian. There's all different ones. So just experiment and have a feel what they sound like. So with that, we've got the scales and chords. So people ask me all the time where to find this to set up what is in scale and what's not. So green in scale, orange not. It's up here on Cubase, and you choose, it'll be select to velocity like this normally. So you need to choose scales /. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's draw in the pattern. So we're going to be doing in 16th notes here, so like this. And we're going to be doing 2 on beats. And then we're going to be doing 1/16 before the next on beat note, and a space, so it looks like that. And then we're going to do on beat and then off beat. So that is going to be our first bar, and then we can just copy that to the next one. So we've just got 2 bars of the same pattern. Nice and simple. Now we're going to utilize some half steps from this scale, and pretty much all half steps, to be honest. And what that looks like is dropping this down from the B flat to the A. So we're having the first 2 on beats on the B flat and then the rest on the A. Back to the same pattern. So we're going to drop those ones to the A. And then from there, we have our first part of the pattern. So you can see here that we're utilizing the half steps of the scale. So a half step, just quickly for those that are new to the series, half steps are notes that are right next to each other. So you don't have to step over another note that's not in the scale to get to it. Whereas if we go upwards, the next note is not B because it's flattened here for this scale. It's C. So we have to step over that B. Even though it's not in the scale, we're stepping over a note to get to the next one. So that's a whole step. So we've got whole step there and a half step there. So these half steps add a little bit more, you could call it emotion if you want to, but I feel like shorter patterns always work much better with these half steps incorporated into it. So I'm going to draw in the bass notes. So we're going to go for G in these. So 2 offbeat notes, and then we're going to have 1/16 just before the on beat note there. Or you can see it as another offbeat note, and we've just shifted it to the right 1/16. So it just gives it enough pace to fill those gaps where those gaps are a bit too big. So dragging them across. So I'm just going to actually put this 1 octave up. Sounds beautiful. So what we're going to look at now is adding a little bit of something to sort of take it away from the monotony and just break that pattern. And that's going to be done with these 2 notes here. And we're going to utilize the other 2 half steps. And the other 2 half steps, the easiest way to find this, if you get a note, you go down. If you see an orange note next to the green note, that's not a half step. It's a whole step to the next one. So you can see that's a whole step to that one. That's a whole step. And then you can see there the E flat and the D. If I go back and forth, you can see they're right next to each other. That's our other half step. So we're going to have the D on the first one and the E flat. So you can hear from that, we're getting that classic trance vibe for a start, but it also works perfectly with the other half steps. And it sounds really nice. Sometimes you can do whole steps if you want to. So if you wanted the E flat to the F, for example, it's going to give you a whole different feel. Let's just pick these two. So it really does depend on the tone of the track, what you're trying to do. But I like, with my style, to sort of go with these half steps everywhere. So this is designed to be sort of an intro melody. That's what I've done it as anyway, but this can be transposed into a melody. And what we can do is copy this across. So what we can do with this is we can shift this upwards or downwards to the next location where this is going to work with half steps. And we've already identified these half steps here. So let's try going down. So you can see everything falls into place apart from this one at the end. So let's just have a listen to how this moves. Or in exactly the same position, but one octave up. So we've actually moved upwards instead. So I'm just going to shift this here to A for now. Now, the reason that I chose A is because it's going to roll back round to the B flat there, and it's going to sort of mimic this bit. If you want it to be different, you can just experiment with different notes to get a different tone to that. But you can see we can just shift that without even having to think about moving it note by note. We can just shift it all in one go. So bring that back down. I like it about here. But I'm going to put this one octave above. I like the sound of that, but it sounds a bit too cheesy for me, having the G in there. And you can see we've built a melody pretty quickly there. So if we now duplicate that, so I've got two leads set up here. Let's just get rid of all our percussion. We've got a beautiful starting point here. So because we're working in a Locrian, I've just got to check that my basses are in the same. Okay, so I'm just going to split this bass here. Feel free to copy these patterns. These are going to be free patterns for you now for the basses. There's nothing too exciting happening here, to be honest. And then I can't remember where we landed. C. I'm going to do the second half. And I'm just going to have a mess around. I'm going to try using the F to tie it back around. So depending on your style, you can hear how we can create different tones in that. I do quite like the F, tying it back round, because it drops lower than the initial, so it gives you a little bit of a lift at the end. But remember, this is an intro melody, so it's something that you can expand on for your main melody, or it can be a totally separate melody, depending on what you're trying to do. Let's just put in a little bit of percussion on here. It's not been designed for this particular part, but let's try. Sounds pretty nice. Let's loop that over the 8 bars. So there we are. That is the completed intro melody. So I did say it was going to be nice and simple, something to break us into the new year, and anyone new joining us could pick up where we are. But you can check up on the other series. We've got 3 of them in total. We're on series 4 now for this year. They're a little bit higgledy-piggledy, like I mentioned. The other series, but these are going to be now yearly series. So series 4, we're on the 4th year of doing these, and we're going to do 12 episodes. So there we are. If you want to get the MIDI, you can head over to Patreon. You get early access and you get exclusive packs and all that good stuff. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.